a voice comes across in the cockpit that's like this robotic, deep, altered sounding voice that doesn't sound like Raphael. In the earlier recording, it sounds like Raphael's voice. Now it's different. And he's talking to Carlos, and this voice comes through and says something to the effect of like, you are listening to the sound of the voice coming through the pilot, but it's not his voice. We are inhabitants of this universe. But your technology is so primitive. This is the only way we can contact you. We're here to tell you that you are the only intelligent species in our universe that uses warfare to harm one another, and you're effectively on the brink of extermination, and you need to find a way to stop it. And then like Raphael comes to, and that's when he's like, "What's going on?" And Carlos thinks he's been talking to Raphael the whole time, and that's when he's like, "Is there somebody else in the cockpit with you?" Anyways, so it's this big mystery. But Mexico took the story and kind of like sequestered it. The way we got access to the transcripts of it is we had to write a letter to a library in Mexico that had access to the transcript. And anyway, but it's interesting to imagine that, one, I love thinking about life outside of Earth, because I think that the notion that there is life or that there isn't life is astounding and fascinating either direction you go. So I've always been interested in that. But two, the idea that others out there are warning us that we're on the fucking fast track to destroy ourselves and you better knock it off. That's also pretty crazy. And we're so accustomed to humans being violent and horrible to each other. That's our history, right? But like, what if that's not normal? What if it's like we're the fucked up people and we're just killing everybody and we need to stop?
I have a theory. And my theory is that I think when you look at all the different ancient religious texts in regards to the creation of the human race, there's so many of them that have these very bizarre, similar narratives. And these similar narratives are like in the Book of Enoch. In the Book of Enoch, the Watchers come down and they mate with the daughters of men. There's a lot of weird stuff like that. Even Adam and Eve, like God created Adam and God created Eve. He created, like, out of what? Like, why did he do that? Why did he do that? And what did he do with giraffes? What did he do with, like, why hummingbirds? What's going on? But they're not along the story's different. The story of humans is a story of engineering. It seems to be a story of genetic engineering. It seems to be a story of human beings being taken, like you take like whatever this primitive beast is and you put something else into it and you rapidly create something that's far more advanced than anything else. I think along the lines, you maintain too much of the primitive beast for the amount of intelligence that it has and the amount of technological competence that it's capable of achieving. It's too primitive still. It's too violent. It's too territorial. There's too much of it that's still an animal.
Yeah.
But we're not totally an animal. We're if you looked at us and looked at everybody else like, that animal's crazy. This animal makes fucking airplanes. Like, we're so different than everything else.
Yeah.
I think we're engineered. And I think we're engineered like, look, I've had pit bulls. And I know people will tell you pit bulls are great dogs and they're sweet dogs, and I love them. Don't get me wrong. However, they're sketchy fucking dogs. They're sketchy dogs. They're sketchy dogs, period. And you could love them. Oh, it's all how you train them. Fuck you. Those dogs are designed to attack other dogs, and they don't. I had my dogs that I had to separate once. You never should have two females together. I realized that after a while.
I have that going on right now. It's not good.
Females, you got to get rid of one of them. You can't have the females together. They'll fight to the death. And males establish dominance. One male is dominant over the other males. The other males back off, and that's the room. That's not how it works with females. The female dogs, they keep trying to decide who's the boss. And I had to separate them. They're locked onto each other, and they're wagging their tails. They're biting each other's face and neck, locking onto each other. And I mean, full wagging the tail, like they're having the time of their life. Ugh. And I had to hose them down and separate them. I had to have someone help me. We made them.
Yeah.
Those are not a dog that, like, it's not a wolf. Wolves are really fascinating, clever creatures that have evolved over time with nature. And, they're brutal to each other, but they're brutal to each other in a way that makes sense for the survival of the pack. It all makes sense if you look at like how it works and how they have to communicate together and they have to push out the weak ones and push out the old ones. It's brutal, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Pit bulls don't make any sense. They make no sense, and people don't make any sense. People are like something that somebody created. People are like super intelligent, very aware of our own finite lifespan, very aware of our own mortality, very aware of the consequences of hurting people, yet we do it anyway.
Yeah.
We communicate with each other. We know there's people that like their entire day is just fucking with people online.
Oh, yeah.
Their entire day is that. So people like to cause pain, like to cause chaos. There's people out there that are warmongers. They enjoy starting war.
Yeah.
They enjoy getting involved in conflicts with other nations. That's their thing. That's what they do. We're fucking weird. We're weirder than any other animal. And I think one of the reasons why we're this weird and this incoherent is because we're engineered.
One thing that so I studied philosophy in college because at one point I thought I might go to law school, but I love like thought experiments. And one of the things that always stuck with me that's sort of along these lines is this idea that humans are almost to the point where you can't even notice it. You are completely egotistical. Like every human, you could basically define their whole existence as being absolutely egocentric. And it comes down to like how you treat other people and your motives, whatever. But critically, there's one point that stands out above all. And actually, Neil deGrasse Tyson nails this. And I know you had an interview with him. I'm not sure if you guys covered this, but it's one of his best descriptions of how fucked up humans are and how we think about things the wrong way. So because we're so egotistical, like humans as a species, we sort of assume that, okay, well, if there's life in any capacity outside of Earth or undiscovered life somewhere, everything is sort of compared against us. We are the baseline. Intelligent life, you know what that looks like? Yeah, it looks something like us. How do we describe intelligent aliens? They're like gray beings they're like bipedal and sort of resemble humans. We have this sort of baseline thought that humans are the best and that humans are the smartest and that if anything is going to be intelligent in the universe beyond us, it'll have elements of human to it, right? And so Neil deGrasse Tyson brings this point up that shows you the absurdity of how little we know and how probably wrong we are. He's like, okay, he does a much better job of this, but it's like, okay, so we're made up of DNA. Humans are made up of DNA. We have X number of DNA strands. I'm going to botch the way he tells it, but imagine we have 100 pieces of DNA that make us human. Like if you have these 100 pieces, you're a human. Okay, well, who's our closest relative to humans? It's probably the chimpanzee. And just for the sake of this description, sorry, Neil, you probably do a better job. They have like 98 of the human pieces, but they're missing 2 or they have 2 different ones. And that's the thing that makes them a chimpanzee. So they're like 98, right? And then you have, well, what's the next closest thing to humans? It goes human, it goes chimp. Maybe it goes to like fucking, I don't know, a bird or a dolphin or whatever. But you go down the line of like the animals that are closest to us in terms of intelligence, and you sort of degrade in terms of number of DNA pieces that are close to the ideal, which is 100. And Neil's like, okay, great. So you have that framework. Okay, what the fuck do we do to chimpanzees? We put them in labs and we test them in labs. We put them in fucking zoos. Do you go up to chimpanzees and say, hey, chimp, let's have a conversation. Let's have a meaningful No, you don't. And they're the closest thing. Let's go down the list. What about an ant? Like an ant's like 75 of 100. You might step on an ant and not even know it, right? How many times have you stopped to talk to the earthworm? None, because it doesn't even register for you. He's like, if there's intelligent life in somewhere out there, what makes you think we're not the ant? Why are we automatically at the same level? Why would an intelligent species somewhere else come here and be like, oh shit, humans, let's chat? What if we're so insignificant that we get stepped on the way we step on ants? Or worse, what if we're close, like the chimpanzee, and we get rounded up and fucking studied? By the way, if you want to, there's a movie I just watched last night called The Signal. It has to do with this. I love sci-fi movies. Check it out. It's a fucking
The Signal.
Holy shit! What a plot twist! It has to do with human testing. I kind of
Is it a new movie?
No, it's like 2014, and it's you got to watch it. And
Who's in it?
no name actors.
Lawrence
I'm
Fishburne.
sorry, not no name actors at all.
He's the only one I recognize.
Fucking huge.
No, I mean, to be fair, he's the only one I recognize.
Lawrence Fishburne. It's amazing.
I'm
I
gonna
haven't
write it
heard of any
down.
other names.
So this movie, admittedly, you're watching it and you're like, wait a minute, I kind of get it. I kind of get it. You get to the end, and
Don't
I
spoil
will
it.
not spoil it. I'm not going to spoil it. You get to the end. I challenge anyone who watches this to think about the example I just gave you about, are we the ant? Are we the chimpanzee? What place do we have in the universe? And with that in mind, think about the ending to that movie, because it's very sudden the way that movie ends, and you realize what the point is. And it's the stark reminder that not only do we not know what else is out there, let alone on our own planet, we're still discovering things that we've never even seen. And that just has to do with fossil records. Who knows what's beyond that?
Right.
How do we rank in the universe? Like, it's so unbelievable that when you look at our problems and you look at the things that we focus on and like our gripes day to day and our conflicts with the world, if you just zoom out and you realize it's not just that we might not be alone, it's that we might be insignificant.
I don't think we're insignificant. I
hope
think,
not.
I think what humans are is a latter stage of intellectual development amongst multicelled organisms, and that it's not the end stage. And I think there's probably life out there that doesn't have as chaotic a solar system, that developed in a different way, that achieved very high levels, probably above and beyond anything we could even imagine what we are. And it might not even be biological anymore, which is the direction that I think we're heading into. But I also think that what we do to animals, I mean, look at what we're doing right now, okay? My friend Ben Lamb, he owns Colossal Bioworks. So Colossal, the ones that brought back the direwolf.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was huge news.
Crazy.
Crazy, dude.
I've seen them in real life.
I think I saw it in your post. Yeah, that's crazy.
Went to visit them, and my daughter was holding the 4-month-old.
Oh my God.
And it was like kissing her and loving on her like a puppy. And it's a
Wow.
it's a little baby wolf. It's really crazy. Just think of what we do with genetic engineering, with the current technology, which is right now evolving and getting much more powerful. If you could imagine us not 1,000 years from now, but even 100,000 years from now, how advanced we are. And if we go to a planet and we find some chimps, and we say, wow, how much time would it take before these chimps could become something special? Something, something that could make a building, something that could make a cruise ship, and fucking Carnival Cruise Lines.
Those are pretty incredible.
How long would that take?
I don't know.
Can we help that? Every single ancient culture, if you go back to their oldest religious texts, their oldest religious texts are about some sort of an intervention by an advanced visitor.
Wow.
All
Really?
of them. Oh, yeah, man. So many of them. The ancient Sumerian texts, if you go into like, it's hard to know what they're really saying, right? Because I'm not a language expert, but there's the Zechariah Sitchins of the world that believe that what they're describing is some sort of genetic engineering. Then there's also the fact that that sign for medicine where you have the intertwined snakes.
Yes.
That sign, I forget what that's called, that thing. But
I definitely can picture it.
It looks like the double helix for DNA.
It does.
And that sign is in these ancient Sumerian clay tablets. It's all over ancient Sumer. It's in their buildings. It's like and it indicates medicine. What is it called? Caduceus? I think that's what it's called, right? The Caduceus, right? So not just that, but the ancient Sumerians in 5,000 years ago, they had a detailed depiction of the solar system. So in one of their ancient clay tablets, like they have this image, and this image is of a sun and all of the planets in the correct order. It's very weird.
That's crazy.
It's very weird. They also have depictions of these very enormous people with these like ornamental headdresses. A lot of them have wings. A lot of the weird ancient people, the gods, have wings, and they also have like these little people on their laps that have tails.
Jeez.
This weird shit. So if you believe Sitchin, and Sitchin's claim is that we were genetically engineered to work for the Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki are a species of super advanced beings that were likely giants that came from another planet.
An unfortunate turn of events.
No.
It says here the caduceus, which you can see in that picture, I guess, right there.
Yes.
Is often confused with the rod of Asclepius.
What's
Which
that?
is just a single snake. And that is what is popularized as the
It's a classic confusion with rod of Asclepius.
Professional
dude.
Healthcare Associations. They're a dominant symbol for professional healthcare associations in the United States. So it's just a United States thing.
Oh, it's only United States?
I think so.
But wait a minute. Okay, but
That's never been used elsewhere?
that caduceus does exist in ancient Sumer.
Correct, but that's where I just the
So like that.
Yeah.
So look, but my point is that looks
How is that
like
not the same thing?
it is the same thing.
no, it's just this a single snake is the medicine thing.
Okay, but the medical corpse one right there in that image is two snakes.
Oh,
Click on that. That's two snakes.
that's two snakes. I can see how there's confusion.
Yeah, but
Popularized the misuse of the symbol throughout the United States medical field.
okay. All right. Well, that one has two snakes. That one has one snake. Point is, go to the Sumerian one, the image. It exists on buildings, exists all over the place. It looks just like the double helix of DNA. It doesn't mean
does.
that's it.
No.
But there's a lot of weird
It's coincidence.
shit
Odd
that is
coincidence.
associated with medicine.
Right.
Like, why is the actual structure of our DNA associated with medicine in these ancient cultures? Why do they have these images of these enormous people with wings? Like,
Yeah.
you would imagine if something came from somewhere else, you would depict it. If it could actually fly and land. If you're 100 years later, 1,000 years
Yeah.
later, 200,000 years later, you're writing it down like, oh, they had wings. Like, there's a lot of fucking weird stuff that exists in these ancient scriptures, the Vimanas in the ancient Hindu texts. These flying vehicles. You know, there's a lot of weird shit that seems to indicate there's a creation myth, and the creation myth has to do with something coming here and making us, not us like rising from the ash, and God's energy forced us to evolve through natural selection, and God is real, but God is just giving us a pathway towards progression to what we are today. No, all of them are a story of intervention.
The one thing that I always come back to anytime I'm thinking about deep philosophical things is just the reality that truly, how can anyone know? Therefore, any idea could be the case. Like when you, one thing that always sort of, I think about this a lot is they recently discovered, recent as in the last 10, 20 years, I don't know. And maybe that's wrong too. They found these things called exoplanets. Are you familiar?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fascinating. So in essence, they found these planets that are comparable to like Earth. And imagine a telescope looking out like in some pinprick out in the middle of the sky, so far away, thousands of light years away, whatever, millions of light years away, and they find like these clusters of exoplanets. And already they've discovered that there are exoplanets that if you think about how we understand life, the way we understand it to exist with carbon and with water and all that, there's like a scale that they call, if there's a name for it, but within the sliding scale of, let's say this side is life cannot be supported as we know it, all the way up to, can totally support life. There's this perfect zone in the middle that we call the Goldilocks zone, which is essentially all the ingredients for life as we know it exist if you're on this portion of the scale. And they've already found there are thousands, I want to say at least 5,000 exoplanets that are not just in the Goldilocks zone, but let's say Earth is barely into the Goldilocks zone. They've found thousands that are better suited in terms of how we understand life, that are more in the Goldilocks zone than we are. And we have no access to those planets. And that's just looking in one little portion of the universe out there, thousands of them. So here we are today, and it's like, oh, that couldn't have happened 1,000, 2,000 years ago. That's not possible. Give me a break.
No one knows.
What's happening right now on exoplanet CB12?
Yeah.
You don't know.
And you don't know if they get to a point where they're 100,000 years advanced from us and they have novel propulsion systems that use gravity and bend space and time and don't just use gasoline to rocket across the sky. They could be here all the time. They could be hiding in the sky. You know, there's too many weird stories of people being like the abduction stories.
Oh yeah.
Like there's too many weird ones where I don't want to dismiss them. You know, I just because you don't know, and if it's a novel experience, if something's coming here and finding some Mexican pilot, and fucking nuking his brain temporarily, and then talking through him to the air traffic controller. Who fucking knows if that's real? If that only happens once and never happens again, and we're just sitting around going, "What happened? Nothing happened. That was nonsense."
Oh.
There's always going to be a bunch of people that want to say that, but. Have you ever heard the recordings of Betty and Barney Hill when they're going through their hypnotic regression?
I don't know them well. I know that
crazy.
story.
The recordings are crazy.
I don't know if I've heard the recordings. I know they exist.
Yeah, they're talking about like these medical experiments that they're doing on them, and like these people were living in, I think it was the 1950s. And so it's an interracial couple in New Hampshire in the 1950s, and no one knew about UFO abductions back then. This was not a thing. And all of a sudden, these people see this light, and their car stops working, and then they wake up hours later, they're lost time, and they go about their day like something fucking happened. They don't know what, they don't know what's wrong with them, and then they eventually get hypnotized. And both of them independently have these fucking crazy stories of like medical experiments being taken on board this craft. And then so many people have similar stories all throughout the world where they don't have access to this story. They don't have access to, you know, any iconic versions of what a UFO abduction experience is.
Yeah.
It's not like it's in their memory like, oh, it's Santa Claus came down the
Also, this is pre-social media, a lot of this, where like the proliferation of information is just less.
Yeah. If you ever read Jacques Vallée's books, he's the guy that they modeled the French scientist in Close Encounters after.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a guy who's like a legitimate scientist who's been studying this forever. He's very careful about it, and he's a brilliant guy. And he has historical representations of these experiences